All right, everybody, we're gonna go ahead and get started this morning. Mike, are you in here?
I am.
Oh, hey, sir. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your morning to come chat with us.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, we really
He's
appreciate it.
giving back to Lauren's machine,
Uh,
and she knows.
Stand by. Okay, sorry about that. Now we're going to go ahead and get started. So, everybody, our first speaker of the day, we have Michael Hunter. He is a 26-year Army veteran, and he is currently the Enterprise Business IT consultant at Resourcive. So, he's here to give us some super awesome knowledge today, chat with us for a little bit, and we're really thankful to have him. Mike, 26 years is really, really awesome. Can you start kind of talking about that journey and how that transition journey was for you? If you weren't aware, everybody on this call is a transitioning veteran. They're all within 6 months of exiting the military. So all of the advice in that realm that you could give to us would be great.
Okay. Um, well, first of all, let me say thank you for your service to all of you that are joining today. So yeah, I spent 26 years in the Army. First half of my career was spent as a combat engineer, and then I decided to take a long walk and ended up spending the last 16 with Special Forces. Um, yeah, as I was getting closer to getting out of the service, I spent quite a while attending a lot of the sponsored transition seminars that were hosted by different nonprofit organizations that were brought by SOCOM or USASOC down at Camp McCall or Fort Bragg to speak to transitioning service members. I learned a lot of information I wish I would have learned sooner in my career. And I kind of felt like it was a shame to kind of learn this as you're going out the door, although most people don't focus on these things or these activities until it is that time. It's kind of counter to retention. So I decided to start sponsoring these, the basically taking the timeline, the 24-month timeline, breaking it down, and then in chronological order, having different nonprofits and organizations that assist transitioning service members to come out and talk to them. Basically, for anybody E7 or above with 18 years of service. So at least they have the knowledge and know how to help their formation as well as for their own information as they get closer to that time, ready to make that decision. Um, and so I found it to be just as I would say it takes as much of your focus as would for any other mission that you've done in your military career. It needs to be your priority mission to take care of yourself. Thankfully, I had a great chain of command that supported everything. And they said, hey, look, you only get one chance to do this right. So take the time you need. So I did. And I signed up for a lot of different nonprofits that supported programs, the Special Operators Transition Foundation, the Honor Foundation, America's Corporate Partnership, a lot of different programs out there to include Seven Eagle, who reached out to me as I was kind of in between jobs as well. I'm just going to wrap this up here in a minute or two, and then kind of open it up for questions, or whatever, because that's kind of what I when I spoke with the gentleman before we scheduled this. But yeah, I got out, started working for a nonprofit, and quickly within a couple months realized it was not the right fit for me. They had some financial struggles among some other issues. Started noticing a lot of red flags. So I became that little asterisk, that little stat of 50% of veterans leave their first job within the first year of their after they retire. Luckily, Seven Eagle had reached out to me about an opportunity with the company Resourcive, where I work now, and I've been with them ever since. So I've been with Resourcive about 4.5 years.
Amazing. That's so cool that you're back here speaking now and Seven Eagle kind of helped you get into where you're at now. That's super awesome. What made you want to stay in the military nonprofit world after you got out in the first place? What led that interest?
Um, I enjoyed helping people while I was in the service, achieve their goals, regardless if it was military or personal. I always told everybody, plan as if you're doing 20 and plan your life as if you're getting out tomorrow, because tomorrow's promised to no one. And so as I began on this journey of, the military transition process, I've seen a lot of different organizations trying to help, and I wanted to continue that myself. I wanted to give back to the community and help others. So I was trying to find a job kind of in that same space. Unfortunately, there wasn't a lot of open positions other than just volunteering your time, which I still do today. I mentor with several different programs. Um, but yeah, so I ended up working with a nonprofit that educated vets on the VA home loan. The relationships that I built were not just throughout the United States, but also globally. A lot of different soldiers overseas in Italy, Europe, over in Japan, excuse me. And so I enjoyed, helping them kind of navigate this challenge. There's a lot of things out there that people don't understand about how the program really works. And so just kind of helping along with that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Were there some common mistakes that you saw a lot of veterans making? Like more veterans you would talk to, they were all kind of doing these things that could have made their transition a little easier for them?
Yeah. A lot of folks I've spoke to kind of wait a little late in the game when it comes to getting like life insurance. And that's one of the things in the whole transition process that doesn't seem like one of the things you'll be working on. You think about education, think about certifications in the field of where you want your next career to launch. However, that was something that I learned real early on because I am 100% disabled. So I was disqualified for a lot of insurance companies. I was actually rejected after my first physical. I was almost, at the time, I was uninsurable. And so luckily for me, I did finally connect with another nonprofit that also helps. And they helped me get life insurance for myself as well as for my wife because I didn't have that outside of the traditional, SGLI or whatever it is. SGLB, and it's, whatever works for everybody. Everybody's situations are different. For me, that was the right move, not taking the SGLV or the survivor's benefit program. So I went with normal life insurance to a normal company. So that was one of the things. Another thing, and I wish I would have learned that much sooner before I started getting everything documented. Another thing I see as a common mistake is a lot of folks wait until they get to like almost right to the very tail end before they start focusing on LinkedIn or focusing on what that next career field is going to be like. They are some are very proactive. Some are experiencing burnout from their careers and just want to take a step back and just relax. And this is really the time when, if you're going to take that break early on. So that way, as you get closer to the end of your time, you have that time to really focus on that transition. I'm seeing some questions pop up in here. Let's see. A sticker that says I escaped. Yeah, those are unrelated, but I did an escape room with Resourcive. It was fun. Let's see. Life insurance company that was United Shield. It's basically a bunch of reps that help veterans get life insurance that may find challenges to other life insurance companies. I'm sure there's other ones out there.
Yeah, Mike, can you talk a little bit on everyone might not understand that because I know I didn't. I was one of those people who didn't know about that until after I got my VA rating, unfortunately. Can you talk about why it is so important to get that life insurance before your VA rating a little bit more?
Yeah. So, I mean, besides the fact you could find yourself uninsured. So, like for me, I have sleep apnea, and I know a lot of these rules are changing currently, and every, you know, group that goes through transition and the rules seem to be changing at the VA and stuff. But, I elected to do the medical retirement. So I probably should have backed up a little bit there. My back went out on me as soon as I took a battalion ops job. 3 weeks into the job, I couldn't get up from my desk, couldn't walk, and found myself at the start of COVID in a military hospital where no one knew how to help because they thought they weren't taking patients. And then I got pushed over to, once I got released, I ended up at Moore County Regional here in Pinehurst, North Carolina. And that's where I spent like the next week trying to walk again and everything else. It was at that time I decided to go ahead and pursue the medical retirement route because that's what a lot of folks, to include the USOC nurse, had recommended years prior. But like everybody else, I just wanted to keep going. But when I woke up in bed and unable to move, I thought that was probably a good time to go ahead and hang it up. So, I started getting all this stuff documented, going through the medical board process and everything. And I waited because it wasn't something I really thought about having was life insurance. And, I see folks that get life insurance, like, for example, my wife's policy is maybe like $60 a month, where mine is several $100s a month. So it's a huge difference. When you look at SBP and SGLV, some of these programs, the older, especially SGLV, the older you get, like every 5 years, the rates incrementally go up. So it very quickly becomes expensive. For the SBP, you only get 50, or your spouse gets like 55% of your income based off of, and then you pay a high rates depending on your rank and stuff like that. So this just seemed to be the one that made the most sense to me. So I did like a 20-year term, $1 million policy, whatever, and it was like a couple $100. So not too bad. There is, and like I said, initially I was uninsurable. I was rejected by a lot of different companies. So just know that there is some different organizations. I see GFI, I'm not familiar with them, but I'm sure they're, just as good as a company and probably can help out as well. So hopefully that
Yeah.
answers your question.
Yeah, no, it did. Absolutely. Thank you for highlighting that. We just run into that. I've been running into it a lot lately of people bringing that up and kind of talking about it. So I wanted to highlight a little bit. On kind of on the same subject, what's a good way to talk about? You mentioned that you medically retired and you're 100% disabled. What's a good way to talk about that with employers? A lot of transitioning veterans have that question of, how do I bring my disability up? Or is it a pitfall in my job search journey?
So I didn't bring it up. I mean, it gets brought up like by HR. It's one of the questions they have you answer. I think it's voluntarily to provide the information, and but it's like a federal requirement for all employers to add that to the application process. However, I didn't bring it up because it doesn't, for the most part, doesn't affect the day-to-day stuff. I mean, I work remotely from home, so I sit in where you see me right now, 8 hours a day. I just got to remember to get up and move around a little bit. Yes, Chris.
Yes, good morning, Mike.
Morning.
So, when you were talking about life insurance, did you decide that when you were separating from the military that you needed it? It wasn't like these life insurance agents reached out to you. It wasn't. You just decided that you needed it.
Yeah. A little bit of both. So when you do establish a LinkedIn, you're going to get contacted by two types of organizations nonstop till the probably a year after you retire, and that's going to be people selling life insurance and financial advisors. They all want to take your business or get your business, excuse me, earn your business, however you want to word that, or they want to hire, for different companies. So it was something that I knew. I'd heard about the Survivors Benefit Program. I was following some individuals on LinkedIn that talk about this a lot. One being, I gotta think of his name, Matt. 1 second here. I'll bring this up while I'm talking. There's some retired SAR majors on LinkedIn that do a lot of Matt Quick. He's from, I believe it's head of military affairs at PMI now, but he talks a lot about military transition and life insurance and SBP versus SGLV versus term life insurance. So it's really a personal decision. Again, you got to figure out which one really fits the mold best for your family and make that decision for you, because nobody can do it for you. I just found this to be the most cost-effective way to take care of my family. So yes, Trenton.
In your opinion, when it kind of ties into the whole HR thing, when applying for jobs, when they ask you, are you a protective veteran? Do you feel, I guess legally it's not supposed to hurt the veterans, but what's your opinion on that when filling that and identifying yourself?
I don't like, I don't have a problem with it. Like I say, it's nothing that a lot of people talk about like during the actual interview process. It just came up like as one of the questions you had to answer, and it's completely optional. I believe for the most part. But yeah, I didn't have an issue with it. I'm a pretty transparent person. I'm an open book, so it doesn't bother me.
Okay.
But some people may. Some people may have, feel a certain way about it and more want to keep more things private in their personal lives and not want to share that information. So it's a personal choice.
Kellen, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, you're all right.
Yes, good morning. I appreciate you coming to talk to us. I know this is something that's been on my radar a lot. I don't know what my VA disability is going to be, but I know with my history, I'm going to get something. And I kind of feel that pressure from the time clock. It's like I should get something. Do you remember when you were shopping around, were there any specific things to avoid? Like you were mentioning when you filled out the HR questionnaire, is like it's optional questions, but I feel like it's not really optional because if I have a deficiency that they need to know about, I have to say something. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Sure. Again, I can't 100% recall. It was 4 years ago when I filled out the paperwork. So I don't remember if it was optional or not optional. I think on some applications I've done in the past it was. But yeah, I mean they need to be aware. Obviously, I mean if you're going to work for Amazon warehouse and they have a requirement that you must be able to lift 40 pounds, bend over and pick up boxes all day, then you want to mention that hey, you have some disabilities because it allows them to along with the whole Disabilities Act, there's different programs out there, things that they can modify or make modifications for you as an employee. It doesn't disqualify you 100% from the job, depending on certain jobs, obviously. Some it may, but for the most part, yeah, I think that's information your employer needs to know. So, well, for expectation management, Jacob.
Oh, quick question. So you said once you had your 100% VA rating, that's what really locked you out of a lot of life insurance stuff. What about previously diagnosed stuff? Like with what I have diagnosed from while I'm active, I'm almost guaranteed 100%. Does that factor into it? Or is it just the VA disability?
No, so your life insurance in general, it's a normal company, just like anybody else. It doesn't matter if you're a veteran or not, right? Your next door neighbor could just go and call the same company and they're going to ask them the same questions, right? But being a veteran, obviously, there's going to be some more things they're going to look at closely because of the risk. It's all about financial risk for that company, right? And so when I was going through the process, I had a lot of stuff already documented. I knew I was going to go the medical retirement route. It was supported throughout SOCOM, the special warfare community at the time. And so, a lot of us moved that direction because, from all the chain of command and everything, everybody was like, hey, look, I don't know why you wouldn't go the medical retirement route at the end of your career. However, if you get to, I think it's 29 and a half years, you can't medically retire because you just proved you could do a full career at 30. So if you're before that, you can. So for me, I chose to go that route. There's a lot of benefits to it. One being your VA ratings are given to you instantly when you retire. There's not a 6-month, 1-year waiting like a couple of my friends that retired before me. It took them a year to get their VA benefits kicked in because it took a year to just get their rating. I don't know how backlogged they are right now with all the ups and downs of government shutdowns and stuff like that. But I will say that I submitted a claim recently just to add my daughter back in because she went back to college. I submitted like July of last year and they looked at January this year for the first time. So there's obviously a backlog, right? And they're going to prioritize people getting out of the military over, probably things like that. So just something to keep in mind.
You don't think you'd be on here selling life insurance this morning, did you, Mike?
No, I'm not selling life insurance. I'm not pushing anybody to talk to anybody.
No, I'm
just
totally joking.
I'm just saying like it's something to definitely consider because had I maybe, and you don't think about it because one, a lot of people in the military live paycheck to paycheck, right? So it's like, hey, do I really have a couple $100 more bucks that I want to throw at this? And it's kind of hard to justify in the family budgets and stuff, depending on your financial situation. But I would say that it's very important, especially if you do plan on getting life insurance, to definitely take a look at that sooner than later. Because once everything goes on paper and is in your medical files, when they pull all your medical records to do an evaluation, do a physical and everything else for your life insurance policies, that's when it's all going to come to the surface. So
Yeah.
hopefully I answered that question.
Mm.
Greg, you're on mute.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks for speaking with us today. So if we wanted to connect with someone like you for mentorship, what's the best way to approach that conversation?
Kyle, do you guys have your own like mentorship program, correct? Internally?
So we're a SkillBridge program. So yeah, we host them for SkillBridge, but I think he's just meaning as a mentor or someone to get advice from. Just tell me if I'm wrong, Greg.
No, you're right, Kylie.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what I'd recommend, like based off of, I don't know what you did while you were in the service, but there's a lot of different programs out there. So depending on what your career goals are, for me, I wanted to always envision sitting at the table closing deals, with wearing a suit and tie or whatever to work and stuff like that. After my career, I want to do something completely different, use my brain and not my body anymore, because my body suffered enough. So that was kind of the route I wanted to go. So I enrolled in programs like America's Corporate Partnership, ACP. I was partnered with a executive from I'm trying to think, I think she works for JP Morgan. So that was my mentor, although she didn't have a background in what I was actually interested in. She was more on the financial side. So that was okay. Still offered some good advice. I had a few others that I thought was really helpful. So I would just recommend like enrolling in one of those programs. There's a lot of them out there. Just be careful of how much you take on, because a lot of them do have similar requirements, and it can be very time consuming. And you want to be mindful of the resources, people's time and money that's being donated to these programs to make them successful. Does that answer your question, Greg?
Yeah, that was great. Thank you.
Okay. Brandon?
Thanks for the life insurance talk, Mike. I did that about a year ago, and was good timing from my perspective with medical issues and what as you get into your 40s and look to get out of the military. But just switching gears a little bit to kind of look forward. After your 26 years in the military, what was the biggest like mindset shift that you had to make to go into the field that you're in now from what you were doing in the military?
Yeah. So I didn't have a lot of experience or background in IT. I was, as a combat engineer or an 18 Charlie, which is an engineer sergeant. And then I was an intelligence sergeant, and then I was a team sergeant and a sergeant major. So I didn't have I wasn't a commo sergeant or, have my hands in networking or anything like that. So one, I kind of took the approach of, if I work from the bottom up, I'll learn the most, be a little, humble myself, and kind of learn how everything works. So I had to really like dive into this stuff to have a better understanding of what it was that I was going to be pitching or, discussing with, CIOs, chief information officers of, large companies. And the other mentality I would say is, you're going to miss, if you had a good experience, everybody's experience in the military is different. You're going to miss the people you spend your day-to-day with. They've become like a second family to you, for a lot of folks. And so you kind of, depending on how active you are in different groups or organizations, tied to military, or whether you just, cut loose completely and, move cross country to Montana or something, and, now you're no longer associated with military, surrounded by the military. It's a different, it's a little bit different, quieter, less fast paced in some instances. I found that the other thing is having patience when working with other individuals. I will say that there is, and again, varies based off of your military experience, but I worked with a lot of high performing teams before the last 15, 16 years of my career. People who just get stuff done because they know it needs to get done, as opposed to people who need to be led around and told what to do every single day. So there is a lot of that. Unfortunately, you have to really exercise patience. Some people just take their time with everything. It moves much slower. Michelle?
Good morning, Mike. Thank you for being here. You've given us a lot of great information and stuff. My question, do you think consulting is a good fit for veterans who thrive in the high tempo problem solving type environments?
I do. It's hard to make a generalized statement like that. Like when I heard consulting when I was in the military, first thing I thought of, right, was all the, as we called them, graybeards, all the old retired first sergeant sergeant majors that, wore their polos and their tactical pants and they're running around the woods and they're advising, right? Or you see them downrange on deployments. That's what I thought of consultants. However, there's a lot of different types of consultants out there. Deloitte's a big consulting company. Accenture, there's a lot of others. They do look for people who are self-starters, forward leaning learners, willing to take on something maybe you're not familiar with, get outside your comfort zone, dive into studying new technology or a new product that's, going to assist in, whatever this company's vision is. So there's a lot of work to be done, but again, people who are self-starters that take initiative, the things that made you successful, just being present, showing up on time, being professional, committed, some of the values that at Resourcive we hold dear to ourselves, are things that are shared, amongst most corporate companies. So I think that, if that's something that if you're looking at consulting, it's definitely something to consider. Let me get
Appreciate it.
Richard.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let me get Richard real quick and then I'll come back to Christopher.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah.
So I do have a question when it comes to the job searches and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So, how can veterans show their problem solving and leadership skills in a resume or interview without sounding like we're just more military members?
That's a good question. So two questions there. To address the interview question for problem solving, usually there's going to be examples depending on the company. A lot of times they'll have formats in which they want things to be given back to them. So some of you may have heard of the STAR technique when it comes to answering interview questions. And then there's various different techniques also in your resume. Kind of use that same process to take what you did, who you did it for, just like an old NCOER or whatever you may call your reports and your different branches of service. But you're going to quantify like how many, or, how much money or whatever it was that you saved, or how many people did you assist, that type of stuff. And what was the outcome? Because that's what most companies are really focused on, is they're outcome oriented. What was the outcome of your efforts? And you got to get in the mindset, and this is a hard one, for your time in the military, whether you did 4 years or you did 20 plus, you've always been told about putting the team before your individual self, right? And it's the first time in your life now you're going to put yourself and you're going to talk about yourself, and it's going to feel uncomfortable because you're not going to say we did this. You're going to talk about what you did. What was your part of that, and how did you help the mission to become successful? And so you do have to find ways to kind of translate it. And there are different companies out there. Again, some of these companies like America's Corporate Partnership, they have resume writing classes. I know you get those as you go through transition as well. I don't know how good they are because I didn't do those. But there are different programs out there and nonprofits that'll help you write your resumes. Your LinkedIn is extremely important. A lot of companies, almost every company uses that. And sometimes they use that for your resume, or they pull your resume from that. So it's very important to have a LinkedIn presence. And I know there are DoD directives in different organizations that are kind of pushing away from that. All I can say is I can find almost everybody that's speaking on that on LinkedIn. So take from that what you will. You got to be able to make yourself visible. If you're not visible, then how are employers going to find you, right? You got to network, but you got to be visible on LinkedIn, because it's weird if you're not. Chris.
Thank you for taking my question again, since I'm the one who's working with life insurance right now.
Oh.
So you said you went through a bunch already. So United Shield took you in, accepted your application?
Yeah.
And was it just your health that made you at first seem uninsurable, or did you also meet the other qualifications like being married, having kids, or being employed? Because those are usually taken into consideration.
I'll be honest with you, I don't know about the personal metrics that they looked at. I know when it comes to like the actual health and like your medical health, those were the things that either qualified or disqualified. Keep in mind that I had just been hospitalized for a week and been to like multiple ERs. So all those things are like red flags in the insurance company's risk. And so I had all of them. So initially it didn't look good. And so it took a little bit of work, but I was able to find a company that would accept me. So,
Well, thank you very much for answering my questions.
yeah. Peter?
Hey, Mike, thank you for your time. Just had a quick question regarding the consulting altogether. I know you kind of hit what your original thoughts were to also kind of where you're at now. What kind of led you into getting the focus of IT? Or did you just come in, hey, I'm going to go ahead and consult, and then you kind of stumbled into it? Or how did that come about?
Yeah, so I'll be honest with you. I wanted to work in sports management. I had a business management, master's in business management. I was trying everything. I was even looking at doing a internship with the Pro Football Hall of Fame for a summer. I was looking at a lot of different things. I had talked to some connections at NASCAR. I was looking for anything to get into sports because I love sports. And I figured, do something you love, right? But and I didn't really consider Deloitte until I went to a SOTIF transition event where we went down to Georgia and we were shooting skeet and barbecuing and doing a bunch of other events, right? And you had some guest speakers come in and talk. And there was a gentleman there from Deloitte who was a partner. And so, we hung out for a little bit. When I got back, there was another gentleman there that also had talked about some things that resonated with me. It's one of the things that helped me kind of pivot in my search. He talked about his personal experience and some things that happened that kind of had him redirect. And I'm sure you've heard this, like, you can always earn more money, but you can't buy back time. And so for me, being gone all the time from the time I was in the 82nd to the time I retired, pretty much, I want to be more present in my wife and my kids' lives. And so that was a huge thing for me. You got to look at, what are the 5 most important things to you and your spouse if you're married, and without influencing their decision, just ask them and then match them up and see, where you agree and where you disagree, because you may find a lot of times that people are going to sit there and be like, oh yeah, go for that CFO job or something, because of the money is great money and stuff. And it is, but you have to be willing to put in the work and the hours and the travel and everything associated with those types of roles. And sometimes that may not be what you really want. And so for the first time in your life, this really is like the world is your oyster. You can do whatever you want to do. You just have to decide what that is. And sometimes it's easier to decide what you don't want to do. And so in this case, there's a lot of things I didn't want to do. I didn't want to contract overseas. I was done with all that, right? I told my wife I was going to give, when I went over 20 to 25, I told her I'd give her back the next 25. So my search was all over the place. And luckily I had somebody reach out to me that said, hey, look, we found a job. It's in IT. Are you interested? And I was like, well, yeah, I'd learn. I don't have an IT background, but I'm willing to learn. I'm not opposed to it. And so then they told me it was consulting. And so now I was kind of like, well, I'm not sure exactly what we're doing here. And actually it was the weirdest. And I shared this with the guy that interviewed me for this, for today, but I didn't know anything. I was more prepared for every interview up to this point. I didn't know anything about the job 30 minutes to doing the interview. None of the details. Everything was talked to me in generalities. It was real close hold information, like he worked in a skiff his whole life. And he didn't share like the details, important things I need to know, like name of the company, the position, none of this stuff, right? And so there was generalized questions asked along the way, like, are you willing to take IT certs? And I'm like, yeah, of course. Will you sign an NDA? Yeah, of course. But I didn't know what the job was. So I'm getting ready to start an interview and I had to email him and say, hey, look, buddy, I'm going to an interview cold right now. I have no idea what I'm interviewing for. Can you tell me something? And that's when the details got shared with me. I did a crunch study on, Google of what I could find about the company and what they do. And then I just put my best foot forward. And so if you're willing to learn something new outside of your comfort zone, and you bring the same energy, a lot of it has to do with people can train you to do anything. That's one thing about the military. They've proven that you can train to do just about anything if you're willing to learn. It's all about character and about who you are. Can people work with you? Do they like you? Do they think you'd be a great fit for their team personality wise? So those things equally get looked at just as much as what skills you have in your past. Albert.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Just a quick question. What advice would you have for somebody without a background in IT who's looking to break into IT?
Okay. That was me.
Well,
So
good.
zero background. So one, luckily my company's real big on training. We're half the company's former special operations forces. And so they understand that this is a challenge. They all, like the president of our company, joined the company as a program manager 8 years ago. Within 2-3 years, he was the president of the company. Same thing with the vice president and the director of marketing and sales and all that stuff, right? They all were enlisted folks from the military. None of them did 20. I think they all did, 10 or 8, whatever. And none of them had IT backgrounds. They were either medics or SWIC, different acronym for the Navy. Basically, no, not to insult any Navy SEALs if you're on here. I think my understanding is they transform around the boats and stuff. So no IT background, right? So you got to dive in. You got to, and so it's like, well, okay, where do I find this stuff? Well, LinkedIn has a lot of free training. When you sign up for that 1-year LinkedIn premium, it gives you access to a lot of different classes, and you can start learning like CompTIA, network design, and unified communications as a service, which everything is something as a service these days, right? There's all these classes on there. They have formal certifications when you pass the exams, whether it's state, national, or whatever accreditations. So as you start completing some of these courses, and some are prep courses for other programs, they will help you kind of build your resume in the IT world. You can study, depending on, if you're still working on your degree, you can go into an IT background for that as well. That can help, like general, business management and infrastructure or whatever, information technology. You can do studies in that, which will help. And also there are, and I don't know how access is for people before they join, but my company, because we work with 3 of the largest, kind of think of like sports agents, the companies that sponsor all the individual agents, those companies are called TSDs, and they have a bunch of websites that also have classes and stuff that you can take on all the different technology stacks. So it's just, again, a lot of that self-learning, diving into this stuff, getting a high level understanding, and then you'll get your hands on later. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely, yes. Thank you.
Kellen?
I appreciate circling back to me again. I know some of the decision was made for you with the medical retirement bit, but was there ever a point at which during your transition out of the military, you're like, man, it would just be easier to stay in. Like, this is ridiculous. It's like you were doubting yourself.
No. So for people that are retiring out of the military, I'm sure at some point you felt it, right? It was just time. You knew it was time. And it's weird to say it, but it is. Your focus starts to not become your job anymore. You start realizing, like, hey, you know what? Maybe it's just time to hang things up, right? And I was kind of battling that because I was getting towards 20, approaching 25. It was the debating on whether I wanted to stay in and chase another job. I was working at the schoolhouse for like the first time in my career, had a dream job, and I was loving it. So it's like, where do I go from here, right? If I don't become a battalion CSM, what do I do next? And the reality is, it doesn't matter what you did. Your pay, every E7 in the military gets paid the same when they retire, every E8, every E9, so on and so forth, right? So it doesn't really matter what you did, because I think more ego sometimes drives those decisions. And for me, it just became a focus of my health, and my family became a priority over my career. Does that answer your question?
It does. It was a similar situation for me where it got to the point after my ankle surgery, my 3rd back hospitalization, that's like, I need to start looking at changing the situation. So,
yeah.
But there's been times I was like, man, if my health would let me stay in, it would be so much easier than this. It's like they make it as hard as they can.
Yeah. And just to be transparent, the medical retirement decision was completely mine. All right. Every chain of command, I don't know if you're supposed to share this kind of stuff, but for those who've been in these conversations know, like the chain of command half the time are like, hey, look, we'll take care of you, right? We'll let you finish out your career and blah, 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 blah. But I didn't want it, to me, it wasn't about just serving, it's about what I did. Was it meaningful, right? And I had done all the combat tours and all the door kicking and everything else. I'd done everything I ever dreamed of doing and more. And so it was kind of, I was running out of those goals, right? And I seen it was just time to do something different. And eventually I always said that it's the organization's bigger than yourself. It's not about you personally. And I couldn't be like a hypocrite and tell everybody that and then sit there and hide all my injuries and everything else, which I was for a while. I was literally like crooked, trying to stand upright and wear baggier sweatpants and everything, shirts and everything else to hide the fact that I can't stand upright. But it's hard to hide when you can't walk. So it was time. Jacob?
So I kind of have a two-part-ish question. So, are there some like new areas in IT where veterans can make a strong impact? And what about ones that veterans should avoid in IT as they're getting out and starting new things?
It's the impact is based off the individual. It's based off your work ethic and and the experience you bring to the table. And if you don't have any experience, you're willing to learn, to be humble. If you've been a senior leader of an organization or whatever the case may be, they may be hiring you in for an entry level position. And if you're not okay with that, then look for something else. They talk about knowing your worth and everything while you're in the military. But again, sometimes, I found throughout my military career, starting, I've worked from the bottom up, both in combat engineering and in SF. And so I wasn't afraid to start over again. And so that for me was important to have a foundation to build upon. So come in like a brand new private or something, learn everything I could possibly absorb and work my way up from there. And I figured that if my work ethic and my drive continued in my new career that led me to success in the military, then I would be just fine. I can't tell you what to stay away from because that's kind of a hard question to answer. For one, I don't know what your interests are and stuff like that, or any veteran when it comes to IT. Everybody's stories and their experiences while they were served and their duty positions and everything else are all different. Nobody's story is ever the same. So it's really just pursuing what will make you happy, because that is important. You're going to be doing this potentially, if you're a type of person that likes to stay loyal in one spot, you're doing this for a long time. Find something that you're going to love, that you'll be passionate about, that give you purpose.
Yeah, 100%, Mike. I just have one last question for you. I'd like you to just kind of leave everybody with a little advice that you think would be helpful during this time. Maybe something that you think you wanted to hear when you were transitioning.
Yeah. My best advice is, again, for those that are towards, that spend a lot of time in the military, do take a little bit of time for yourself. Plan that into your calendar that you have to give to your command or whatever when you're transitioning. Whether you choose to go the medical route or traditional retirement, that's a personal decision as well. A lot of people push away from medical because they feel like they don't have control of their timeline. And I will tell you, while you're not in control, you have transparency. So it's not like it sneaks up on you. And it roughly takes about, almost a year, depending on VA backlog and doctors availability and stuff like that. So you can time it out almost exactly the same. It's not like you're going to wake up one day and surprise you're out. No, you're going to know it's coming. And prepare yourself mentally for that, because when that day comes, that it's your last day and you're like officially out of the military for the first time in your life, trust me, it sits in real quick. There are things you're going to miss, and there's things you're not going to miss. Don't rule things out as you go through your search. Again, find things that will make you happy. What are your goals in life? If you're younger, you may be more ambitious and you may be entrepreneurial and want to start your own business. Go for it. If you want to find something more slower pace, where there's jobs and career fields out there that'll suit that. but you really do have to find what's going to make you happy. Don't pick something that's going to make you miserable, or you guarantee you're going to quit that job or, be let go. Look at the different career fields that are out there. Look at who's hiring, because we all talk about and joke about it, but it's a real thing. Like, don't go to college and get a degree in nothing, and then or in I don't know, basket weaving, and there's no positions for basket weaving out there. And if you are completed your degree, that's fine too. A lot of times a degree really translates into your work ethic and your ability to do something, take the initiative and be successful at it. I think that's more of what GPA means to anybody, because I've yet to have an employer look at your GPA. They just look and see if you have a degree. Don't disqualify yourself. You hear about the imposter syndrome. That's a big one that I've heard from a lot of people, and a lot of times even myself. I look at different job positions and be like, nah, I don't think I can do any of that, because I don't understand what they're asking. I would network. That's the most important thing you can do. If you are the type of person that fills out an application and sends it off cold without talking to a hiring manager or somebody at that organization, you're never going to be seen. There are 10,000 plus people applying for some of these jobs every single day. And they use AI and computer algorithms to sort through those resumes to find the best, and then they interview those. Okay, so make sure that one, that your resume reflects accurately your experience. Don't make it more than what it is. Everybody wants to be everybody in IT wants to be the director of IT or the CIO. It's okay not to be. Just what does your experience level translate to? Find somebody that can help you translate that on paper, and then network. Look at these companies in the career field. Find positions, research those positions, find as much information you possibly can. Put all the effort into this that you put into any other mission you've planned in your career. And if you do, you'll come out successful on the other side. Not saying you may not have some bumps along the way, like I did. I worked for a nonprofit. I don't work for a nonprofit anymore. And then find out again what is meaningful to you and your significant other, if you have one. What are your goals together? Because you have the rest of your life. The military is going to be behind you. So now you have your wife and kids, where you may not have seen a lot of, that you get to spend some time with. So figure out what it is you both want. And I'll give you examples. So when that gentleman shared that story with me, he said that his preacher had basically told him that, hey, look, you're not supposed to take this job. And the job was to become a partner with his best friend who had a large business or whatever. And that would have took up a lot of his time. Great money, never would have seen his family. And he decided not to pursue that. I looked at all the jobs I was chasing. It was all about money. I took what he said to me and I called my wife and I said, hey, what are the 3 most important things to you? Of course, that was a loaded question with no context whatsoever. So my wife started laughing. What are you talking about? So I told her, I was like, hey, this guy just said, find the 3 things that are most important to you, and have your spouse answer the same 3 questions without influencing each other's decisions, and then compare notes. And I did that. And nowhere on there was money. Money was nowhere in there. It was about family, health and stuff like that. So I had a job offer from another nonprofit that was offering me significantly more than I get paid now. However, I would have to commute to Charlotte 2 hours twice a week. That's just one way. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to commute an hour and a half. I built a home out in, near Pinehurst. It's quiet, great schools, great hospitals and doctors. I didn't want to start all over again and move around again. I had some daughters finishing high school. I wanted to let them finish school in one spot. And we were closer to our family for the first time in a long time, because I lived out on the West Coast and all my family's from the East Coast. So I passed up on the job offer in Charlotte the same day that I accepted the offer for Resourcive. And I've never regretted it since. It's a great company to work for. And so, there's a lot out there. There's a lot of job hiring freezes, and you'll hear all the negativity and stuff like that. But what I would say is stay positive, continue to look on LinkedIn, work on your LinkedIn, network. Even if it ends up being a conversation, sometimes those conversations lead to introductions. And I'll say that I had more conversations with people that didn't lead to interviews or anything else, but I don't regret a single one of them. they've all helped me ever since, and I've in turn, paid it forward. So.
Mike, that was some amazing last advice. Thank you so much. Today was super insightful. We really, really appreciate you coming on and spending a little bit of time with us. Thanks for giving back.
Yeah. If anybody has any other questions, I know we're wrapping things up, but feel free, you can share my email with them. Shoot me an email and I will get back to you. Just be a little patient. But I don't say that and, like some people were like, yeah, anytime, let me know, and then never reply to you. I seriously do mean that. So please. And I wish you all the best of luck in where this next chapter takes you. And again, I'll close with saying thank you for your service. I appreciate
Thank you, Mike. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day and week.
Thank you. You too.